How do you judge a serger by its cover? Well, join me in this video and I will take you to a variety of serger models and I will give you my assessment or judgment on what it can do based off on its outside appearance. This is a very huge topic, so let's dive in. First up is this machine with these tension dials. These two knobs here are the two running needles, and these two knobs here are for the lower and upper looper. The tension dial discs are somewhat exposed, that's why you see those knobs in front of the machine. When you thread this machine, you loop the threads from each of these knobs guided by the thread paths and hooks. To adjust the thread tensions, you move these dials from left to right and right to left. Next is what they call a lay-end thread tension serger. Lay-in means you lay the thread along with each of these slots and you adjust the tension dial by pushing it up and down. Notice this is different from the left and right movement of the dials compared to the previous one. This is another knob tension dial type machine. Don't be intimidated by the variations of the positioning of the knobs. They are just variations. This model is considered a small size serger, which means threading it can be tight due to its tight corners. Here again is another variation of a tension knob serger. These two here are the left and right running needles. And the bottom two are the lower and upper looper. This machine, from my experience, this is actually both a manual and automatic tension dial, meaning the machine will automatically set the tension dials for you, although these numbers also means that you can override the setting and change it manually. Next is a hybrid type. These knobs here are the thread tensions for the two running needles. But as you can see, the lower and upper looper are threaded differently because it's a lay-in method. And you may ask, why they do this? I think it's for efficiency and variation in design. From my experience, the knob type dials are more efficient and that's why garment factories and commercial grade machines still use the knob style tension dials. This size of a serger I consider a medium size, which means it's not terribly bad to thread. This machine has two slider functions in the front. This is a variation of the positioning of the differential feed and the length of the stitches. Some machines have differential feeds and length dials that are located on the left and sometimes on the right side of the machine. And what you're looking at here is another variation. So don't be intimidated when you see this kind of design. It's just another variation. This machine here is another of those automatic tension dials, which you can also override. Notice also that the throat plate is flat with no blade guard cover. That means this is a cover stitch machine. Just a heads up for you out there because it happened to me. I wasn't paying it. Anyway, long story short, I got a replacement. Back to the model here, notice the bed plate is in one piece. That means that the machine do not have an armhole feature. These two machines don't come with armholes, and how you can tell is by looking at the bed plate, and it's one piece, smooth and flat. That's how you can tell that there is no armhole feature on a serger. If you see this kind of serger with many threads, that means it can do many stitches. and sometimes it can also be a combo machine. Any machine that has this digital screen here, it's a telltale sign that it's a computerized machine. This is a computerized serger. It can do many things, and the computer will prompt and guide you on your stitches. You have to kind of learn how to use the computer program to be able to use the machine. Am I making sense here? For the most part, the machine is programmed to do logical sewing. It will not sew if it does not understand the command. Here is an anomaly of what I said earlier about armhole feature. This machine has a separating part, and you may think it may be an armhole feature. But no, this machine happens to split wide open. To thread it is like opening two doors. It's kind of cool. It's very easy to thread. You can see everything. No hidden fats, no tight corners. This is the ideal setup to thread a manual machine where you can see everything. It's a great design as far as threading, but I think there's a little bit of a problem when it comes to the synchronicity of the movement of the thread. This screen capture here, if you see this kind of thread setup, you have to follow the correct thread path. Otherwise, the threads will not flow properly, and believe me, the machine will let you know that you're not threading it correctly because it will fail eventually. The stitches will come off or something. I just have to mention this because the manual is vague on this. This model here has an armhole. However, to get to it, you have to drop down the lever behind it, which means if you are sewing thick armholes, sometimes it won't fit. This picture here, notice the position of the threads are different, and you may wonder why is that? It's just a different design. The idea here is the thread paths are completely separate from each other, and it helps with the smooth thread flow. That's all. Here is a side-by-side comparison of a knob-style tension dial, but the positioning of the running needles are somewhat different. Here is a popular serger. A lot of people own this brand. When you thread a serger manually, you use your left hand and your right hand. This machine here, you use your right hand to thread the lower looper. And that makes this machine seems to have an impression that it's easier to thread because you only use one side of the machine to thread it. Now I'm going to share this with you. You need to open up the left side of the machine to get to the lower looper, but not this machine. I have a couple of these machines where to get to the lower looper, you don't actually get into the left side of the machine. You only use the right side to thread the upper looper. Most people don't know these differences. I'm just trying to establish to you why this is so popular and why people are raving about how easy it is to thread. Well, it's easier than most machines, and that's because you use the right side of the machine to thread all the threads. Next is an older FAP model. Notice this bucket here. It is a lint catcher. Sometimes that comes in handy. This machine here, one of the most expensive out there. This is packed with features, great for beginners who want to be guided by a video. It's great for people who are easily confused because the machine will really guide you how to use it. Here are two air threading machines. The difference is the first one to the left is a manual machine with air threading features, while the second one has a computerized air threader and also a cover stitch machine. If you see a machine with too many threads, that means it can do a lot of stitches. It surely have a learning curve. Takes time to learn, but because it's so overwhelmingly too many features, you buy it. But when the novelty wears down, at the end of the day, you just need a couple of features from the machine that you will constantly use. I have an issue with brands trying to sell you a serger and also an embroidery machine. Get a separate embroidery machine. Don't mess with an overhyped serger. I already have 3 combo machines and I keep buying them. Oh no! After living with them for months and years, and at the end of the day, you just really need a few stitches. Now notice the difference here. If you wanting to buy a cover stitch machine, I think that the best cover stitch is still the simplest one, and Juki I recommend. Even though I don't own this one, I recommend this machine. Get one that has no bells and whistles. Simple, easy, no bells and whistle, and it works. This serger is the most redonated serger of all time. Why? They don't break and they're not real sergers. So stay away. If you see this thread guide with only 4 spools of thread, that just means more thread paths for that one thread. This is another example. 3 threads but has 4 thread spools. What that means is that the manufacturer was saving cost and just installed a standard 4 spool threads when you actually just need 3. That's the idea there. So don't be confused with that. This is the oldest domestic cover stitch machine made in Japan. They are getting harder to find. This design, notice the giant bulb. This thing gets really hot and be careful about touching them. And they run all day. The light was part of the accessory pack, and notice the 2 dial tensions only. The loopers are hidden behind the cover. And if this video is somewhat overwhelming and too much information overload, please rewatch the video. I hope I have given you insights on what a serger is like by just looking at it from the outside appearance. Thank you so much for watching.